Misty Valley Cooperative presents When We Were Gone Astray. The paths of the world twist and turn, taking you to unexpected places. Welcome to the haunted town of Assembly, and to the strange lands around it. The days are growing shorter and the nights are chill. So put another log on the fire, find a comfortable chair, sit back, relax. Listen. Chapter 11. More Differences. Fletch watched as Josh Avery positioned the cane pole along the top of the metal gate and secured it with twine. He swung the gate closed and latched it, sealing the pastorium driveway off from the highway. He did the same to the smaller gate at the common garden. There was no way to secure the entire yard, but he placed a pole along the lowest step at each porch of the house, and another for good measure at each doorway. "What do the poles do?" Fletch asked him. "They keep stuff out," said Josh. "Bad stuff. Bad people. But we can't stay cooped up in the house forever. We've got to go to school, or at least one of us does." At his right, the other boy put the doormat back in place and looked up. "Not me. I'm on vacation." "No way," Fletch protested. "That's not fair. I say we take turns, and we do all the homework together." Okay. But it's only Saturday. The weekend's just beginning. We'll be safe if Silver's with us. Where did you see him, Josh?" "Crowther Wills. He has a camp along the stream where he used to have a moonshine still. We had a disagreement, and I was lucky to make it out of there alive. He's nobody to mess with." "But we've got him outnumbered," said Fletch, "now that there's two of us. It's like having eyes in the back of my head." "Yeah, Josh, we're like one of your living freak shows." "I wish I'd had the two of you with me back in the day," Josh admitted. "You would have dazed the rubes." He drew more cane poles from the canvas bag on the porch and handed one to each of them. "Where do these go?" Fletch asked. "You carry them. If you have one of these in your hand, even Crowther Wills will think twice about touching you." He handed them a third pole. "Give this one to Silver. Make sure he keeps it with him." "They don't look like much, Josh. They'd probably break if we tried to whack anything with them." He spun it in the air. "Not exactly walking tall." Josh caught the stick and handed it back to him. "There's more to them than meets the eye. Now you listen to me. You don't realize the danger you're in. That man wouldn't have thought twice about killing you the other night. He just wasn't particularly interested." "Sorry," Fletch said, abashed. "I know it's dangerous. But do you really think he'll try anything else?" "I reckon that depends on how much he needs that thing you can't get rid of, and if he thinks he can find a way to take it." The two boys stood side by side, heads down, hands shoved into the pockets of their coats. The coats were not alike, but their postures were identical. "If we trapped it, we ought to be able to let it go." "Yeah," Fletch agreed, "but go where? I don't think we can just sneeze it out into the air." "We need pigs." "What for?" "Like in that story Dad tells from the Bible. The devils go into a herd of pigs, and then the pigs jump into the sea. Problem solved." "Not for the pigs," Fletch protested. "Does it have to be something alive?" He looked up. "Here comes Silver." The truck stopped at the gate. Silver got out and started to open it, then noticed the cane tied to the crossbar. The boys went with Josh to meet him. "Do we need to keep it closed?" Silver called. "We can come and go, but we're not supposed to leave it open," Fletch told him. He unlatched the gate as Fletch passed the cane pole across to Silver. Silver inspected the varnished pole, running his thumb over the smoothed ends. "This is beautiful. Did you make this?" "No, Josh gave them to us. They're our wizard staffs for protection against Crowther Wills. We've all got one, and there are more of them hidden around the house." "How do you know they'll work?" Silver asked Josh. "I'm still alive," Josh said. "That might have been otherwise if I hadn't taken one of these canes on my trip down the creek to Crowther's camp. Whatever he tried to send my way, the cane pole turned it back. He didn't seem all that happy about it either." Silver waved the cane gently. "Should we hold them in any particular way?" "Just use them like a walking stick. If he sends something at you, drop the pole in the way. But honestly, I doubt he'll do it. He learned his lesson the hard way." "Where did you see him?" Silver asked. "Where's his camp?" Josh Avery shook his head. "I'm not telling you a thing about that. I shouldn't have told Fletch about it either. You're a pretty determined fellow, and I don't want you going out there looking for him. It could be family feeling would protect you, but I wouldn't count on it." Josh looked toward the edge of the trees. "I'd stay out of the woods altogether. If you do go off this property, keep to the town. Better yet, keep inside. If you get bored, I'll come over and teach you to drive a nail through your nose. Something nice and safe." Silver frowned. "The way you're talking, he must be the devil." "They're kissing cousins, and he's got the kind of temper that doesn't much show till after he strikes." "All right," Silver promised. "I won't try to find him, but he'd better not find me." "You just keep your eye on double trouble here. That's your job," Josh told him. "One of 'em is trouble enough," Silver declared. "If he keeps multiplying, I'm heading for the hills." "So, what's the plan?" Fletch asked. "At least we can all three fit in the truck." I called the middle. "I was thinking we ought to start at the bridge, since that seems to be where things meet," Silver suggested. He climbed in and looked over at them. "If you could make the covered bridge appear, I'll bet you could cross." "But I'm having a good time." "I'm not trying to send you back," Silver assured him. "Actually, it's kind of interesting having both of you around." "Silver's just nervous," Fletch put in. "He's worried what'll happen if we jump him." The other boy considered the possibility, then nodded. "That seems justified. He could never escape both of us, even if he tried." "You have a girlfriend," Silver reminded him. "At least one of you does. I can't remember which of you I'm talking to." "I don't think it matters," said Fletch. "You want to know something weird?" Sure." Silver looked at him cautiously. "We're starting to share each other's memories. I think the longer we're together, the more things we'll remember from each other's pasts. And I've already remembered something from his place that's not the same over here." "What is it?" the other boy asked. "The Gainesville Midland. We don't have a train, but you do." Fletch looked at him in surprise. "What happened to yours?" "I don't know, but it stopped running years ago. Even the tracks were pulled up. All I know is it came out of Winder and went north to Belmont or Candler or somewhere." "It still does," Fletch told him. "I love that train. It still uses a steam engine. You can ride to Gainesville or Athens or Winder. I can't believe you guys don't have the train." Silver looked perplexed. "You're saying you can actually remember it, even though you were never there?" Fletch closed his eyes. "I remember it as if I had been there, Silver. I can still hear the sound of it as it goes clanking through that big field over by the dairy. We listened to it that evening in the lane." Silver frowned. "Here's the bridge." "Looks normal," said Fletch. He turned to the other boy. "What do you see?" "What do you see?" "Bright light and pain." "Nothing," said Fletch. He clenched his hands tightly inside his coat sleeves. Fletch turned to him. "What's wrong?" He saw the boy's hand trembling and placed his own hand on top of it. "Raindrops," he whispered. "It's like raindrops." The boy's coat melted like water. He became insubstantial. "Silver, come help." Silver was out of the truck in a moment, opening the passenger door and kneeling down. "I'm okay," Fletch managed. "The bridge is not mine." I have panic attacks all the time, Fletch reassured him. Just breathe. The boy nodded. I'm trying. I just got scared. I don't know why. Silver helped him out of the truck and Fletch followed. Just hold him, Silver. It's okay. The boy rested his head against Silver's shoulder, drew strength from his embrace. I was above the world. There was the train below. Just a flash and it was gone. Silver looked at Fletch, who stood close beside them, troubled. You said something about rain. Did you see something too? Just for a moment, like red rubies falling from the sky. Oh, Lord, Fletch, said Silver with a sigh, what am I going to do with you? Fletch slipped an arm around him. Too late to back out now. You're stuck with us. At last the boy's breathing steadied. I think I'm okay. Sorry about that. Let's try walking across the bridge, just to see what happens. In a minute, Silver told him. First, let's make sure you're okay. Then we'd better take the cane poles along, just in case. For some reason, I feel better holding this, Fletch told him, taking the cane Silver passed him from the truck. I don't know why I freaked out. For a minute, I was sure I could see right through you, said Fletch. I thought you were going to disappear right there in the truck. I suppose that's how it will happen, the boy said. I like it here, but it'll be easier when things are back to normal. He stood at the beginning of the bridge, hesitating. Okay, here goes. He stepped onto the bridge, waited. After a moment, Fletch and Silver followed. I feel like I'm in the labyrinth, he told them, only not blindfolded. At least we can see the other side. They reached the middle of the bridge and stopped. Nothing seemed unusual or out of place. The creek tumbled below them. The mill wheel rumbled as it turned. The feeling was so different that night, Fletch said, remembering. I was here alone, and it was cold, and when I saw that the roof and walls of the bridge had gone, I thought I must be dreaming. I came through the garden and down the street, Fletch said in agreement. Our hair was still long then, and when I saw you in the shadows dressed in your bathrobe with that rake-handled staff, you looked like a wizard. Yes, I couldn't see you clearly, but I knew who you were. I knew we could do this, because we were the same. Only you disappeared. Why couldn't we cross? We wanted to. We tried. Together they looked over the parapet. Do you reckon that troll girl's nocturnal? No. Doc says Susanna plays with her sometimes during the day. I'll bet she just doesn't like to be seen. Maybe we should leave her something, suggested Silver. He pulled a handful of items from his pockets and spread them on the parapet. Keys, a pocket knife, a handkerchief, a little felt pouch, several coins, and a small arrowhead. She'd like the arrowhead, that's her kind of thing, said Fletch. He began to search through his own pockets. What's the little pouch? The other boy asked. Nothing much. I carry loads of stuff around. Silver began to gather the objects and put them away. Can I see, or is it private? Silver handed him the pouch, and the boy opened it, drawing out a long curl of dark hair. Is that mine? He asked, looking up. Fletch took it, and a smile crept over his face. No, it's mine. Silver, what's up with that? Where did you get it? Silver shrugged. There was a heap of it on the floor of the barber shop the other day. I thought I'd keep it as a souvenir. Fletch returned the pouch to Silver, his smile now completely beyond his control. That's so romantic, the other boy said. You guys are beyond hopeless. He looked away, his gaze turning beyond the bridge, toward a world he couldn't see. May's Boy. Betsy Weathers understood enough about time to realize that not all causes came from the past. As she thought of Fletch and his startling appearance from elsewhere, she wondered how this particular event had been set in motion. Fletch had not accomplished this himself, she was sure. At least he had not done so consciously. Betsy herself hadn't caused it, and almost certainly neither had Crowther Wills. Either it was an accident, or larger forces were at play. She stood with Forby Banks in a cellar room hidden beneath the lowest floors of the abandoned church in Winder. She marveled at what the man had done, directed by a dream, the meaning of which was as dark to her as it was to him. Her own encounters with John the Conqueror had been frequent when she was young. He had been something of a mentor, her guardian and guide, but with one exception, long years had passed since his last visit, and she hadn't searched the places where he might be found. The exceptional visit had occurred on a terrible night earlier in the year. She had awakened and gone onto the porch to find John sitting on the swing. He appeared little more than a boy, as young as she had ever seen him, though drawn with grief. His hands were bound with rags. "May's dead," he said. "The boy is dying too." She hadn't grasped the meaning of his words at first. May and Mark and their son lived far away in Atlanta, and she hadn't seen them for more than a year. "He isn't dead yet, May's boy, but unless you go, he will be." John had helped her prepare the things she would need. Josh had driven her, and she had arrived at Grady Hospital as dawn broke over the gray streets. Bringing Fletch back from death was not really a decision she had made. It was simply a thing she had done. Only later had she considered what a radical shift she might have caused in the order of things. "Ferguson, what's John's interest in Fletch?" she asked Forby. "Have you any idea?" "He hasn't bothered to pass along that information," Forby told her. "Knowing John, I don't expect he will." Betsy sat in the rocking chair and looked about the room. "What was this place before you found it?" "It was my hiding place when I was a boy. Before that, I don't know. There used to be a farm here before the church was built. I suspect this was one of the cellars." "I see there's only one way in or out," Betsy observed. "John seems to think we're in for a siege." Forby nodded his assent. "The thought has occurred to me. How long have we got, I wonder?" "Probably not as long as we think," Betsy told him. Night in the orchard. Josh Avery kept the tractor in low gear as he dragged the brush hog through the tall weeds and sawbriars. He knew of Cap Harbor's reluctance to disturb the orchard and wondered what lay behind it. Apart from the vague legend of a long-ago drowning, he had never heard of any misfortune associated with the well or the orchard in which it lay. Early in the afternoon, while the boys were in town, he and Mark had walked through the neglected area, gathering fallen branches and sawing up anything which looked too big for the brush hog to handle. Now Mark was stacking the salvaged wood at the edge of the trees, where it could be collected for firewood. Later, one of the boys could use a push mower to start clearing around each of the trees. The brush hog made short work of the brambles as he guided it along the straight rows of apple trees, and by backing into the tangle of the surrounding woods, Josh was able to reclaim much of the original boundary. He made a circular pass around the well, and then another, slightly closer. He noticed the glass jug a moment too late to avoid it, and it shattered beneath the brush hog as the blades struck it. More jugs were hidden among the weeds. Josh pressed the clutch and stopped the power takeoff. Then he cut the engine. He climbed down from the tractor, scarcely aware of the shadows gathering behind him. His attention focused on the undamaged jugs by the well. "Moonshine jugs," he thought. He lifted one and wiped through the layers of grime with his thumb. The liquid inside gave off a pearlescent gleam. its color shifting from purple to pale blue. He turned, looking to see whether Mark Forrester was still at work near the edge of the yard, but something was odd. It seemed to Josh that night had invaded a small area of the orchard just behind his tractor. In the darkness, a boy struggled at the end of a vertical line of rope. Josh put his hand against the tractor's tire and gripped the deep tread. He realized very quickly that this wasn't an illusion. The night and the dying boy were there, though not real in the way the tractor was real. Even so, he acted without thinking. He started the tractor and backed it up until it was beneath the hanging boy. Then he stood and reached for him, knife in hand, to cut the rope. He tried again and again, but could find nothing of substance to grasp. As he watched helplessly, the boy's struggles ceased, and he hung heavily on the rope, his body turning slowly in the darkness. The soft glow of afternoon light broke through, expanding until nothing of the boy or the night surrounding him remained to be seen. Josh pulled the tractor forward and inspected the ground where the jug had shattered. Bits of glass were everywhere, but he managed to find 2 pieces with a part of the label still attached. He took a handkerchief from his pocket and used it to lift the fragments from the grass. The writing on the label was illegible, and Josh could make nothing of the words. Mark Forrester called out to him as he came through the trees. "Did you hit something?" "Afraid so," Josh told him. "Come take a look." When We Were Gone Astray is produced by Misty Valley Cooperative. It is the second book of the Forked Ways. The text and audiobook are copyright 2021 by Beau Farr. All rights reserved.